As Denise, here we go. Got it. Now it's recording. Thank you, thank you. Welcome everyone to our webinar this afternoon, this morning, depending on where you're at. It's great to have you be a part of this event to learn more about the Human Service Value Curve. I'm excited to present Jen Kerr and Tina Wright-Irvin from the APHSA organization. We've been working very closely with them on a few projects that are related to the CARES funding and community action and human services response to the pandemic. But this work is also tied into some information we're going to share later that all connects to the human service value curve. So we are very excited about what we're going to learn today, and hope that you'll enjoy it as much as I'm anticipating I will enjoy it. So we're going to move to the promise of community action, just as an opportunity for us to center and prepare for the learning that lies ahead. I'm such a believer of the promise, and it really does help me prepare for what is next. Community action changes people's lives, embodies the spirit of hope, improves communities, and makes America a better place to live. We care about the entire community, and we are dedicated to helping people help themselves and each other. A great synopsis of who we are and what we're about. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Jen and Tina and join the rest of you in learning more.
Thank you so much. What a welcome kind of sharing and starting off with your promise. Such an awesome thing to do. I'm super excited to meet everyone today. My name is Jen Kerr. I have the privilege of being the director, oh, I'm about to cough. Sorry, the director of organizational effectiveness with the American Public Human Services Association. I join you today from Pennsylvania, and so excited to do so. Tina, do you want to briefly introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much, Jen. Good morning, afternoon, mid-afternoon, everybody. My name is Tina Wright-Irvin, and I am also with APHSA. I am an organizational consultant on Jen's team, and I'm so excited to be here with you guys today and talk about the Human Services Value Curve. And check the chat because we're going to be using a cool little tool called the Lucid Board. So just kind of follow those directions so you'll be ready for that exercise. But let's go over the agenda, Jen.
Thanks, Tina. All right, so as you are kind of logging into the Lucid Board in which Tina directed you to in the chat, just want to share a little bit about our agenda. So today we are going to recap and review. So we recognize that all of you have either participated or joined us as part of the MLTC conference. I think it was either February 2nd or 3rd was our breakout around Value Curve Part 1, or have had the opportunity to listen to the recording of that. So we are going to just kind of pull up some highlights and kind of recall, I like to say, that information from where we're storing it to kind of front and center for the next 75 minutes or so. We are also going to spend some time with some case practice application. And so Lana's talked a little bit about the partnership playbook, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But some of the awesome work that you guys are already doing has been highlighted throughout. And so we're really going to make the value curve come alive and talk about what that means for community action agencies. And then finally do some individual work and talk about what does or how can we use the value curve as a leader, and what does that lens look like looking at our own kind of practice or the practice within our organization. All right, if you have not yet used the link in the Lucid in the chat, please do so. And Tina is going to pull up our Lucid Board. And with the Lucid Board, and Tina, as you are pulling that up, we're inviting everyone to contribute to it. And you will see 4 quadrants in this Lucid Board. And we are asking that you think about what are some of the things that you remember, you're able to recall about each stage within the value curve. So again, regulative, collaborative, integrative, and generative. And chart them in each quadrant. So if you're not familiar, the T on your side navigation is text. And if you click that and click into the box, it will develop a text box and you will be able to type in 1 or 2 words that you remember around each stage of the value curve, and try to drag your text box while you're typing so it is not kind of over someone else's. So we're going to give you a few minutes to do that. You can also, if someone's using sticky notes, absolutely put yourself a sticky note in there, whatever you need to do. So someone's starting us off under regulative with compliance. Love it. Keep it going.
I see clear expectations and follow-up, expanded resources, and collaborative. We had a little bit of a learning curve there at the start, I think, with people figuring
Yeah, I saw
out.
a lot of typed somethings, and now I'm seeing a lot of information. So that's awesome. We'll give you another kind of 2 or 3 minutes to recall 1 or 2 things about each stage of the value curve.
I see a couple people hovering there in generative, trying to remember. What was generative again? What are some things about generative? Who'll be the first?
And if you're not comfortable using Lucid or you're not able to kind of do that, feel free to use the chat. Type in like a letter R or a letter C for collaborative, or I for integrative, G for generative, and let us know what are 1 or 2 things that you remember. Yeah, so Jill, if you're not able to use the feature, absolutely okay. Just continue to use the chat as you are and let us know.
I see Barbara in the chat for generative, population-based.
Yep.
And LaShandra's for collaborative, community partnerships and resources.
All right, as you are, I think we're kind of done in regulative. I see people still typing along in generative. And so let's take a kind of look at or recall a little bit. Around regulative, you are absolutely right. You pulled out compliance. You pulled out clear expectations. So program efficiency, program follow-up. There is an absolute reporting feature in regulative. And so we'll talk a little bit around how the feature of reporting and that data can be utilized further along, you know, within integrative, but the actual function of reporting definitely fits within regulative and the collection of the data. We know sometimes a lot of the data that we ask is monitored or controlled by, you know, the federal government or the grants in which we're receiving money to kind of facilitate our programs. And so absolutely great recollection for fitting in that regulative piece. As we remember, collaborative. So collaborative helps us remove barriers. Key on. So this, you know, we talked about, you know, one door or no wrong door, removing those barriers to service delivery, expanding our resources, you know, having those integrated disciplines. And so different program areas, whether it's within the same community action agency, whether it is in collaboration, how we're working with the county or state human services agency. Wraparound services can actually be, or definitely be delivered in a collaborative manner. And partnerships and what they are there. Some of those strategic partnerships, so shared partnerships and partnerships in general, I would say definitely fall within collaborative. Some of those strategic partnerships actually fall within generative. And so we can talk a little bit with what they look like with that intent. And then integrative, we talked about data sharing. So we collected that data at the regulative level, and now we're using that data to the best that we can, within the integrative level. We are adaptive, absolutely, and innovative at that piece too. We talked about the community partnerships, or it was mentioned in the chat, the community partnerships and finding gaps at the integrative level. So understanding the why, or those root causes, absolutely important at that piece. And then finally, our generative. We talked about having collective goals amongst our partnership agencies. We talked about that community-based, or that cultural sensitivity, equity, diversity, all falls very in line with the generative piece. The connecting goals across partnerships, absolutely. And that's the strategic piece that was mentioned in collaborative that I suggested come into that generative kind of standpoint. Someone also shared no wrong door. And so no wrong door is an awesome example of collaborative. So that's kind of where that piece would go. And then as well, someone in the chat mentioned kind of single door for both collaborative and generative, and definitely that fits in the collaborative standpoint and not that generative standpoint. But then Barbara shared population base. Yes, whole community, population base, bigger than the system, definitely fit within generative. So thanks, Tina, for kind of doing this with us. And I think we are at a good start with the value curve. So now I'm going to ask you to use the chat feature, and I'm going to give you a question. And so as you see in front of you, we would be successful, or today's workshop would be successful if. So use the chat to finish that sentence. Today's workshop would be successful if. So take a minute or two to answer that question, please.
And you can use this prompt to address any lingering areas of question or uncertainty that you have. So, if you want to know more about generative, for you, today's workshop would be successful if I have a better understanding of generative at the end. I see somebody said participation is key.
Yep. Learning from first timers level. Learning something that I can apply to the services or systems, leaving the group with new tools, new information, demonstrating, yes, how to use Lucid Board in real time. And you all did an awesome job doing that if you've never used it before. Thanks, Teresa, for pulling that out. Interaction, again, that is Tina and I's goal, is that to interact and engage you throughout. Giving you examples or allowing you to put things to practice, walking away with learning or something new or recalling, and learning more about the value curve. And so I definitely will encourage you. We are going to touch the value curve at a high level for that understanding piece, and go deeper in that application. After today, if there's still more at that higher level of understanding, I'm going to encourage you to review the video previous webinar that I think Lana or Denise shared. If not, we can ensure that that is shared out again as well. And then finally, other things, again, continued participation, engagement, learning new skills, and learning more about the value curve and the lens and how my network can use it. Fantastic. Thanks. Tina, take us away. All right, so the value curve. Kind of what is it? Let's do a quick recap review. Again, as Tina and I say, a recall, because this was not the first time that you all are kind of learning or being able to apply that piece. Regulative, again, the value curve is a lens that helps you look at something from the consumer's point of view. It is a progressive lens, so we may refer to it as levels or whatever, but it's progressive lens that takes us through 4 progression areas. The first is regulative. And if you're looking at the screen, that is that orange box there. And that regulative piece really is, as you all said, program compliance, maintaining that compliance, delivering services efficiently and effectively. So you are doing exactly what you're funded to do, regulated to do, put out to do. You're serving blank number of families, you are spending down all of your dollars on this, you're meeting all of those regulatory requirements of the programs or services in which you are offering. We then talk a little bit about collaborative. So that purple kind of beginning arch within the value curve. And so, when we talk about that, we always say single door, no wrong door, removing barriers, one of you said earlier, and absolutely so it is removing those barriers to access or allow families and community members to access a full array of services. So that does not mean that your agency is able to provide or needs that content expertise to provide all of those services. It means that you're able to refer them and direct or navigate families kind of where to go and kind of looking at resources and services so they're not having to tell their story 25 different times, each time they apply within a service area or so on. The next area, the green arch, when we talk about integrative, at this point, we are talking about those root causes. So again, you'll remember Tina and I really talked about understanding why things are the certain ways, whether we're using data to do that, whether we're looking to transform our casework practices through family engagement. So getting to know the family, understanding them, having them be an integral part of everything that we do. Using data, right? So we may be collecting the data as you all shared at that regulative stage, but using the data and how to apply that data, whether it is to develop goals, whether it is to report on progress, whether it is to understand the family or service participant more, is absolutely key and critical. Teresa shared that documentation would be very important for collaborative. So yes, and right. So there's some senses of documentation that are laid out in regulative, right? And so you must kind of document that you met with the family on a monthly basis, or that you offer these types of services with the family. The collaborative piece would be, can some of that information be shared? Are our systems set up in which we can share and leverage, not all information, but some information? And Teresa's saying, yep, that's what she was talking about, right? And so, Tina and I have worked actually with social services agencies in which each program area within the agency has a totally different database system. And the database systems don't even talk at all, whether it's at the back end with those case numbers, family name, or so on. So you end up with families not only having to tell their stories 4, 5, 6 times and having 4, 5, 6 different caseworkers, but these families then are sharing information with one and not understanding that it's not connected when it's all within the same agency or program areas, such as address changes, such as change of family status, or any of those pieces of information. And then the final area, that bluish arch, is generative. And we always say bigger than the family. This is around systems level thinking, community-based thinking. This is co-creation. So this is pulling all of us together. This is bigger than your community action agency. This is your national partnership. This could be your state collaborative effort or system within partnership within your human service agency partner, or additional kind of TANF programs, or any of those pieces along there. Your generative piece, this is the innovation, right? You're adaptable or adaptive because of what you learn at integrative, those root causes, and understanding each consumer where they are now, And the generative is the innovations to make those changes because of that. Okay. All right. And so Tina put in the chat just kind of a little piece as we go on to the next section. I'm going to transition us over to Tina, and she's going to talk a little bit about the application activity.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Jen. Like Jen said, so this was just another overview because we're thinking that all of you participated in that first webinar that we did. If not, definitely encourage you to go back and dive deeper into each of those levels of the value curve. But we're hoping now that you guys have this understanding of each of the levels. And we kind of want to now just test a little bit of that knowledge. You're going to do it together as a group. So in just a moment, I'm going to put everybody into a breakout group. You're going to have 5 or 6 people in each of your groups. And I'm going to put a case study up on the screen. I'll share it with you while you're in your groups. We're going to have you read over that. And as a group together, talk about which level of the value curve or which phase is reflected in this case study. How do we know? What are the specifics, the facts that let us know, oh, they're in the collaborative level in this case study, or they're actually moving into, the generative level in this case study. So what levels are reflected? And it may be more than one. As Jen mentioned, these things can be happening simultaneously or concurrently. And how do we know what's showing us that this is where we're at in the level, in the value curve? And what else should be considered? If they are in, still in the regulative level, what are some things to consider to get them moving up to that next level, the collaborative level, or the generative level even? So this is really just getting you started in looking at things through the lens of the value curve. So I will put these 3 points, which levels reflected, how do you know which level, and what else should be considered. I'm going to put that in the chat so you can reference that. And then once I get you into your breakout groups, I will post that case study for you guys to review. We'll give you 15 minutes. So 5 minutes to read over, and then 10 minutes to kind of talk about it. And then we'll bring everybody back, or everybody's going to read the same case study. So we'll have a chance to kind of see, hear from a few of the groups and see what you guys came up with. Okay. All right, I'm going to send you to your breakout rooms. Keep an eye on the chat, and we will put those questions for you to address in there. And then I will, shortly after you join your breakout group, post the case study. It should give you the option to join your room. So go ahead and do that now. All right, I think we still have some folks who haven't joined their rooms yet.
Maybe some of them stepped away, potentially, maybe.
Oh, hopefully they move into their rooms as soon as possible. I'm going to move a couple people, or no, I guess I have a couple rooms that only have 2 people, but 2 is enough to get them started. I'm just making sure I don't have any rooms with just 1 person. All right, everybody has at least 2 people in their room, so. Did I stop sharing? Darn it. Okay, I cannot look at Teams and share at the same time. So just FYI.
Tina, I'm gonna join because I'm gonna join group 6 just to listen, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Are we supposed to be back?
Oh, you know what? I apologize. I'm going to send you back to your breakout rooms. Sorry.
Okay.
That was my fault. Don't
You
you love
didn't
technology?
in the
Before you
chat.
do, can you tell us what we're supposed to answer? What's the question?
The questions are in the chat. So you're going to be looking at your case study, and the questions are which levels are reflected, which levels of the value
Oh,
curve,
okay. Identify the levels from the.
identify the levels, how do you know, and what else should be considered. They're all in, the questions are in the chat.
I don't see it in my chat. Am I the only one that's missing it?
No, I don't see anything.
I'll re-enter it in the chat.
Okay. And then when we were in our group, I was the only one that could see the case study. Nobody else
I
in my
couldn't.
room could see it.
All
I
right,
couldn't see the case
I will
study at all
re-enter
either.
that. I will re-share that as well.
Okay.
So I'm going to send everybody back to their breakout room. Sorry about that.
Okay.
All
There it is.
right.
There
Let
it
me make sure that we have. Okay. There we go. Everybody should be going back to their rooms.
All right.
And we'll re-share the case study. Hi, Carol. You should have a message, Carol, to join a breakout group. If you could click on that to join, we're doing a breakout exercise right now. You should have an option to join room 15. Thank you, Denise. I appreciate that. Hi, Jeanette. We are doing a group work right now, so you should have an invitation to join a breakout room. Hi, Joe. We're doing a group.
Sorry,
That's
my
okay.
board chair called me, so I kind of had to take that call.
No problem at all. Go ahead and join your breakout room. I think you're in room, Joe, you're in room number 2. And I think Jeanette as well. We have a couple people who just popped on. You should have an invitation to join a breakout room. Go ahead and join your room and they can get you integrated into the work that we're doing right now. All right, welcome back, everybody. A little bit of a hiccup there at the start, but I think we worked it out. Thanks for bearing with us. Love technology, right? 2 years in and I'm still figuring all this stuff out.
I
So
know.
thank you, thank you, thank you.
I think people are still joining us back.
Yes. Thank you, thank you. And we had some people everybody's still got work going on and life going on. So know that we understand and respect that, and we'll just get in where we fit in, right? Still getting people
We're
back.
groups that have already transitioned back. Hopefully you're able to share a little bit about your conversation when Tina begins, that conversation in about a few seconds once everyone else joins us back in.
And I think all of our rooms are closed. So we have everybody back that's coming back. So I just wanted to ask you guys, you got to read a little bit about a 2-gen approach that was implemented in a state. And this case study is actually in the playbook that Jen and Lana were talking about earlier. So we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but know that you'll be able to read more of these types of specific case studies and how to view these sorts of things through the value curve in that playbook. But just off the top, what were some of the things that you guys noticed in regard to this case study? What level in the value curve did you see? I see Dolores in the chat there. Amazing systems change, but no conversation about addressing the causes. Awesome. Root causes. What level do we start talking about root causes? And you guys can come off mute and talk if you want, or you can do it in the chat. Maggie said,
level.
go ahead. What was that again?
On the integrative level.
Integrative. They were on the integrative level. I see a lot of integrative in the chat. Maggie said all the curves. Lauren said their group saw all levels. What were some of the things that stood out? What were some of the actual actions or tasks or facts of the case that highlighted what level?
Definitely expanded resources.
Expanded resources. What level was that, Teresa? Sorry to put you on the spot.
Collaborative.
Collaborative. Awesome. Lots of collaboration.
Lots of collaboration with the state and other organizations and regulations too, a lot of compliance.
A lot of compliance, that regulative level, that's really like the foundation, right? You have to have that understanding and everybody kind of on the same page with the regulative to then move into some of that other work. Lauren, the use of a statewide database.
Integrative.
And I have to say the challenges with the databases is, especially when you're collaborating in partnerships, if I'm on a platform that I can make a referral to you, it only works to gather data that you need if the folks you're collaborating with have the same platform. And
Or
that
have
seems
access
to
to
be
your platform.
a huge challenge. Yeah.
It is a huge challenge, and it's it can be the difference sometimes between collaborative versus truly getting to that integrative, right? Like where we're all using the same platform, we're all truly gaining or working from the same resources.
Yes, and gathering the data that everybody needs. If I make a referral to Catholic Charities, and if they don't have the platform that gives me back, yes, I received it, yes, I can help them, or no, I have a referral to, that would be a beautiful thing as far as labor, and more cohesiveness and integration, it would just be awesome. But to get to that level in each community with different platforms, it's just a challenge.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I see Jennifer.
I'm sorry.
No.
I liked where I was seeing where it said piloting sites in order to do the integrative parts. I always think the pilot sites is an interesting approach to figuring out how, when you're collaborating, how it's going to function and how to actually work towards that generative part in order to figure out, okay, how can we affect others in a bigger scheme. And working together.
Absolutely. I think Jennifer's group was along those same lines, Rebecca. She said that they saw the generative in the innovation, and that was some of those pilots. Absolutely.
I think when I said in all different curves, it's because that pilot is in my area. And
you knew.
Yeah.
We tried to take out identifying info, but keep it.
Yeah, well, I'm not one of the ones who are in the pilot program, but I would like to say with, I won't give it out, with everything considered, we all aspire to do everything that we can for our clients. But what we all say is, if we only had a little more money, if we only had a little more time, if we only had a little more help, if they only relax the rules a little bit more. And this pilot program allows all of those things. So it is great to see that success being extended to that amount with that money, because our own organization has always embraced that concept. We call it a whole family concept. So we try to do that, but you don't have enough staff. You don't have enough hours. You don't have enough money to pay them. You don't have enough money to make it stretch beyond every single barrier that all 4 of those curves do have. And this pilot is fantastic to know that it's going on, and to know that they make the information available to us, so that although we don't have the financial resources that they have, we can try to mold what we currently do around the examples that they have, but with a tighter budget.
No, and that's exactly right.
ahead,
I was just going to add, like, that key piece that you shared, just Maggie and the others have shared throughout, is that regulative, or that foundation, is so key or so critical. You know, and so, but recognizing that you don't have those resources up front, you know, is absolutely a strength. And then at the same point, innovating through pilots, and whether it is the kind of test and gather some preliminary data, so you can have a better impact, or recognizing regulatively wise, you don't have the funding to fund your whole community, so you're going to facilitate pilots as well, is also a smart piece.
Yeah.
Rhonda had a question. Can you list some resources to plug into and use that are common, and some that may not be utilized or not known about? Thanks. I would say, Rhonda, because I want to make sure that we're able to get to our next exercise, but we're going to talk about the playbook at the end of this. And I think looking in the playbook, you're going to get some specific, very specific resources, names. This case study is in there with the name of the state, which Maggie knows. We've had a couple of people like, well, we know this pilot, but I think we'll come back to that question. And I think the playbook will be a huge resource and help for you in that area. Just really quick before I move on to our next exercise, just to kind of wrap us up with this, definitely this DSS and local community action agency they have historically, and they're currently working at the integrative stage. Definitely all things are happening at all levels, but the degree of integration varies by area and jurisdiction, but their whole family work has led leaders to examine root causes and customize, like super customized for solutions. That is the perfect example of integrative. Identifying disproportionate levels of trauma among families and the underserved in each community that they're serving. So great job, everybody. I feel like you guys are becoming value curve experts now. So our next exercise that I want to take us to, we talked about looking at the value curve, you know, applying it to a case study. Now we want to apply it to yourself. So I'm going to send you back to your groups. It may be new groups, but you know, we're all family and friends here. And I want you to think about yourself, either you as a leader, you know, and leaders at all levels, not necessarily leader in title, but you're here, you're a leader. You're working in human services, you're a leader. Think about applying the value curve lens to yourself as a leader, or your organization. You just read a case study about an organization, several organizations working together. So think about your organization, your collaborative partners, looking at that through the value curve. So I want you to take a few minutes to think about it for yourself, either with your leadership experience or your organization. And then you're going to discuss with your group how you now view your role as a leader or the things that your organization is doing through the value curve lens. Where are you? Where are you as a leader? You know, what level are you on? Or where is your organization with some of the approaches that you're taking? What level are you on? Are there multiple things happening? Are you on multiple levels? Are you at, generative anywhere? How is this valuable to you? And if you are not necessarily all the way at the top at generative, discuss one area of your work that you'd like to advance a level. That's a lot. I know. I'm going to put all of this in the chat so you can kind of recall what I'm asking of you. Whoops. I'm actually going to just kind of let us be quiet here for a couple minutes. And then I'm going to put you into your breakout rooms because I want you to take a couple minutes to just think about what you want to talk about with your group. Then I'll transition you and you can discuss these points with each other and we'll come back and talk about it. So I'm going to stop sharing. I have put the areas that I want you guys to kind of talk about with each other in the chat, and I am going to now send you back to your rooms. Actually, I will send you back to your same rooms so you can talk to your friends that you've already met. I'm going to give you guys, how long can I give them, Jen? Because I know I want to leave you enough time at the end.
Say, like maybe 12 minutes type of.
Okay, we're going to give you 12 minutes.
I'm so sorry. I had to jump off, but I logged back in. So if I can go back to my breakout room, that'd be great. I can't hear you.
No problem. Do you remember what room you were in, or do you mind?
I think it was 16.
All right, I'm going to send you back to 16.
Thank you so much.
No problem. All right, I think we're getting everybody coming back in. All right, we're getting everybody coming back in. We should have everybody back with us in about 20 seconds. So I'm going to give it 20 seconds. Everybody didn't just jump right back, so that makes me hopeful that we had some really good, thoughtful conversations going on.
So Tina, will we get the actual resources from the last session? I know the playbook was something that was talked about in the first session. I was going, oh man, I didn't get to go at first, but I watched the recording. And so I was just curious.
You are ahead of the curve, Rebecca, because we're going to talk about the playbook and give you guys a little sneak peek like in just a few minutes. And then there is another session that's going to go in depth about the playbook that we'll share that link with you as well. But it will be available to, I don't know that it's been officially released yet.
Oh, okay.
But we're going to give you a sneak peek here, and then there's a whole nother session that'll go through it. So
Nice.
very exciting
Thank you.
stuff. No problem. All right, everybody should be back now. And I think we have time for a couple people to report out. So did anybody have some really good insight, either with themselves, applying the value curve lens with themselves as a leader? And we'll talk about that. If you're still kind of unsure, what does that mean, looking at myself as a leader with the value curve lens? We'll review that. We did talk about it in the last session, but we'll review that. Or within your organization. Or does anybody have anybody in their group that they want to just throw out there that, you know, so-and-so had a really good, good grasp on this?
I really like Kia's discussion as a state association. I was very impressed by what they are doing. And where they're
I was
at.
going to say Jeanette. So see.
No.
Well, Kia, let's hear it, Kia, and then maybe we'll hear from Jeanette as well.
No, you don't want to hear from me.
Well, so I was happy to see the case study for 2G whole family, because that's very similar to what we're doing here in Maryland. So it really helped me to kind of think about the different levels in that context, because that's what I was missing, the context of how to do, you know, how to apply those and think about where we are. For us, I think the goal is to figure out what level we're at and then where we want to be. And I think one of my colleagues in my room said the same thing. And when she said that, that's exactly what I think we need to do, is to kind of assess kind of where we are and where we want to be.
Just off the bat, Kia, do you, thinking about your organization and some of the things that you're working on right now, do you have an idea of where you are now?
Collaborative jumps out the most to me.
All right.
Of where we are. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like being collaborative, that is awesome. So that would be what I would say next steps to think about, like, okay, well, I can see we're in collaborative. What do we need to do then to get to more of that integrative, or what are some things that that are on the horizon? Very cool. Jeanette, Kia said you had some good insight as well. What were you sharing?
I know at least one of my staff's on here, so Mary, you can speak up. I think unfortunately we're stuck at the regulative stage. We have aspects of our agency that are in the collaborative and integrative, but we're not near the generative, which is where I'd love to be when I grow up. But what really strikes me is it's a mindset and it's a culture. And I think for myself as a leader, and I have many leaders in my organization, but we as leaders have to embrace this concept and move beyond the day-to-day regulations, operations, and really think about the impact that if we can break out of that mold, that we can move to these higher levels and have far greater impacts on our families that we are serving or individuals we're serving, regardless of the program.
Well
So,
said. Jeanette,
you know, I was saying, I've been in this role 11 and a half years. And when I came in, our agency was so siloed from admin to every program. And it's taken me a very long time even to break down silos. And I think it's even to this day, it's much better. It's improved 100%. But it's something we have to be cognizant of day by day. How are we functioning together?
And if I could just,
perfect.
if I could just say that to move towards that, Jeanette, in my group, I was talking about concentrating more on the generative too, but it's got to be staff training, a dedication to continuously, because it's the mindset change, and you got to go to the line workers that are doing the work every day, the case managers, the receptionists, everybody that has the contact with the customers, and do continuous training together so that everybody can understand the goal. That if you called Marilyn's home and she has a grandma and a preschooler, and that they understand that they need to service while they have them all at one time. And that takes time. And it's got to be all staff together training at the same time to be able to change that mindset.
Absolutely. And when we think about training is part of regulative too, right? So
yes.
Regulative is important. We, you know, it's easy to think, oh, we're stuck in regulative, but we have to get through that and have that foundation established to be able to move to the next level. So it's not being stuck. It's like, we have to make sure that everybody's speaking the same language, on the same page, has the same understandings and the same trainings to move to that next level. And Jeanette, I love that you said it's that being able to understand that and being cognizant of it, because that is then the next step. That's what's going to take you to the next level. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and hand it back over to Jen. I'm going to share my screen once more, and she can give you guys a little bit more insight on the value curve as a leader, and then take us into, I know you guys are very excited to talk about the playbook, so she gets to do that, do that work with you guys.
Yeah, thanks, Tina. All right, so just kind of looping us back again, as I said earlier, some of our roles today is to help you recall information that we shared previously. Oh my goodness. So this slide is directly something that I'm sure you're familiar with, whether it was through the video or through the previous training, because we shared it as part of MLTC. But some of the examples, you know, that you all shared again around leadership through the lens of the value curve, right? So if we're regulative leaders, we're directive. Where our role is ensuring that there are clear expectations or clear operating procedures for program areas and for our agency as a whole. There is that piece too, that these kind of directives or standard operating procedures are both task and relationship oriented, right? So it's not just you're completing your time card by 11 a.m. every Friday and blah, blah, you know, it's that relationship piece as well. Leaders, all of us as collaborative, right? So we are creating avenues for staff to collaborate. We are creating time and messaging that collaboration is important. And sometimes we have to connect those expectations to the bigger picture. So why is it important that Tina doesn't sit at her desk in her office by herself and jam out this process that she could do in 15 minutes? And why do we have to spend 3 meetings, an hour long each, working across teams, across departments to get to that same process, right? And so collaborating, understanding, connections, making the buy-in or bigger picture for staff, as well. Sometimes we have to connect the work that we're doing or each program area is doing directly or intentionally for staff with our mission or with the vision with and the values of the agency. Integrative, you all shared some great examples, and there's other great examples within the playbook around your adaptability as leaders, you know, so facilitating and understanding where staff are, where our different program areas are, and facilitating the importance of shared goals, strategies, innovations. Absolutely, COVID has, if you were not integrative, you are now in the past 2 years. And so COVID has allowed for innovation. COVID has been, you know, Tina and I, COVID has had such a horrible impact, but has had some benefits in this sense of the ability to help everyone adapt, you know, kind of beginning to utilize or recognize the importance of utilizing technology, connecting with families, connecting with others, and the supports and the driving force of our workforce has kind of come alive as well. And then generative, right? And so these are those collective goals. Leaders are really working together bigger than your agency. They are working strategically with your human services agency, with other community-based organizations within your system, counties, states. Families are a key piece of it. Even bringing together kind of vendors or allies or those that you may have previously been competing against for specific grants, right? And so how do we work together and develop the best grant proposal possible together versus 5 different agencies kind of competing for that same grant within the same kind of county or from the state at once. So kind of then taking, where can we get more information on all of this? Tina, if you want to take us to the next piece. And so this is the long-awaited playbook that you all have co-created along with us. So we have spent months as the American Public Human Service Association working with some of you, identifying some of those case stories, one that we talked about today, and like 10 or 11 more that are throughout the playbook, defining each lens of the value curve from the perspective of a community action agency. So this playbook, we'll turn it over at the very end for Lana to talk just a second, and she will talk about how you can get access or when you will be able to get access to this playbook. And then we will also be able to share a link, Tina, I think next, that this will go out to all of you when this training is over. But here is some information on March 9th. So in 3 more weeks, if my math is correct, that you can sign up and you can spend a whole webinar session on the playbook. You can get walked through, introduced. And again, the playbook really blends all of the work that you all do along the human services value curve and those application pieces. Some of those resources or examples, I forget who it was, like maybe Rebecca, that asked for earlier, they are embedded throughout the playbook and is an awesome tool for you all to use.
Sorry, I'll put the link in the chat. I didn't mean to click it.
Thanks. And so Tina, as we kind of wrap things up today, looking for you all, again, as we want to continue this engagement piece, use the chat. Tell us, what is one thing that was helpful or successful for you for our time together these last almost hour and a half? What worked for you? What was successful? Or what did you get out of today? So please use the chat and spend a second to answer the question.
And Denise put that link in the chat to register for that webinar as well. Thank you so much,
Denise. So what was helpful, or why was this successful? So people are starting to say, kind of really identifying where I am as an agency and helping me apply and think about it from that perspective. What else? What else was helpful? Someone's saying this was excellent, kind of understanding the value curve, evaluating and spending some time to think about where I am or where my agency is along different pieces. a clear understanding and perhaps a roadmap to move our organization forward. Absolutely, Tina and I use this. Probably the biggest way we use the value curve is in roadmap development or strategic planning, right? And so understanding what are some of the things that we need to do at the regulative to shore up, to kind of get to, because one of the things that we will forewarn you on is so many times we want to get to generative, and we need to understand the foundation of regulative is so important. And if that doesn't happen, we're never going to progress successfully. People enjoy networking with their group and being able to look at a model and reflect again on myself and tools and a common language. So that was so important, and getting a better understanding of the value curve and how we can kind of relate it to what we're doing at the association level, and successful for helping us understand and important to change things up. And appreciating the framework. And then finally, kind of some organization and interactivity. And so nice to connect and see other programs. And so if Tina and I can promise you one thing, it will be that we truly believe in facilitation versus presenting, and that you all are so resourceful and need to learn from each other just as much as you're kind of sharing with us. So on behalf of Tina and I today, thank you so much for all of your active participation, helping us as we, utilize and bounce back and forth between kind of sharing and using Lucid Spark boards and going to breakouts and coming back. And so we so appreciate you. I know that Lana or Denise will be sending out a copy of the PowerPoint, so you can continue to using this information. And thank you again. And Lana or Denise, I'll turn it back over to you.
And Lana shared the link to the playbook in the chat, so you guys can click that and go right to. I'm excited for you to see it because it's really a really cool resource with just some really innovative things that are happening, and I'm excited for you guys. Thank you.
Great. Yes. And thank you all for participating today. You will get a follow-up email from us of the recording of the slides, and we'll also put in there the link to the playbook. So if you don't get it out of the chat, you'll be able to get it in the follow-up email. Denise, are there any other slides? I think we have a slide that just has my contact information on it. If you would like any additional information, feel free to reach out to me. I want to extend our thanks to Jen and Tina for their expert presenting skills and their depth of knowledge about the human service value curve. And I just want to remind everyone, you're not going to learn everything in a day or in an hour and a half. So this is a process, and you've got some foundation to build on as you continue to do your work in the vein of community action, where we are called to address the causes and conditions of poverty, and the human service value curve is a tool that can help us succeed in doing that. So very much appreciate your participation today. If you would take just a few minutes to fill out the evaluation, to let us know how we did, we would appreciate that too, because we are lifelong learners and we want to create processes that work for you and help you to learn. So again, thank you, appreciate all of you, and we will continue down the journey of implementing and gaining greater knowledge about the human service value curve. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you.